In League, some champions are way better suited for the lower elos, and some thrive in the higher ranks much more. So, we'll be addressing that in today's video. It doesn't matter what rank you're currently stuck at, we're going to be providing you with 5 of the best champs to climb out of your specific elo. We'll be splitting the ranks tiers up into 3 different elo brackets. The first one is going to be low elo and consists of the ranks iron, bronze, and silver. The second bracket will be called mid elo and will be comprised of the ranks gold, emerald, and plat. And then we will have the high elo bracket to round out the video, which will consist of all ranks diamond and above. And if you truly want to master the champions we feature in this video, then there's no better place to be than SkillCapped. At SkillCapped, you'll get access to over 2,000 full game commentaries from our challenger players, teaching you how to climb in the exact rank you're stuck in. 10 brand new commentaries are released every week, 2 for every single role, with the focus around covering new trends and the most popular solo carry champions. On top of this, we have daily challenger updates where our multi-season, multi-role challenger player Hector gives his expertise on anything new that pops up in meta, so you stay ahead of everyone else. You'll get our premium edited courses for every single role with thousands of hours of content to guarantee that you climb for this season. We're so confident in the quality of content that we have to offer, which makes SkillCapped zero risk for you, because if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while using SkillCapped, then you get your money back, no questions asked. So you can click the link in the top right corner of the screen or use the link in the description below if you're serious about climbing this season. One of the best top laners regardless of elo, but an even stronger pick for the lower ranks right now is Urgot. The reason we like Urgot a little bit more for the lower elos is because if you really put the time into Urgot and learn your matchups, the inexperience of lower elo players will really allow you to exploit Urgot's powerful early game. Urgot has such a disgusting level 1 with his E, but in the higher elos, almost every top laner knows that, and they'll respect it way more than low elo players. Lower elo players are much less likely to know how Urgot functions, and this will allow you to absolutely take over games in lane. To climb out of low elo, going even in lane and hoping to scale is just not the best recipe to climb fast, and with Urgot, you have so much agency over how the lane plays out. Mechanically speaking, Urgot is not the most intensive champion ever. However, there are many ways that you can express your skill the more games you put into him, which does make the champ quite rewarding. This is really great to have in a low elo champ because you can still find success pretty quickly on Urgot without needing to know all the ins and outs of the pick, but the more time you do spend on him, the more you'll just be able to stomp your opponent in lane. Now, generally, this champion is a great top lane pickup for the lower ranks, but he's even better as a jungler right now as we've got Yorick. You guys may have already seen the short that we posted a little while back highlighting Yorick in the jungle, but if not, let's give you the rundown. So what makes Yorick so powerful as a low elo jungler is that he can clear really fast and can literally let his ghouls clear out an entire camp for him while he's doing something else on the map. Yorick's ghouls can tank so much damage, so if you have a bunch of them out, you just have to throw your E on the buff, the ghouls will jump to it, and they can just eat away at red or blue without you needing to be there. Now, there is a specific way that you will want to clear the jungle with Yorick in order to get as fast of a clear as possible, so referring to Ninetales' detailed guide on how to clear your jungle as Yorick is a good resource to help you out, as he's the player who has popularized the pick. Once you get to level 6 with Yorick jungle is where your first massive power spike comes in, as having R available allows you to skirmish very well and take down dragon or void grubs incredibly fast while taking very minimal damage from the monster. The standard build going around in Yorick jungle consists of a Black Cleaver Rush into Spear of Shojin 2nd and Leandri's 3rd. And then for the rune setup, it's Conqueror with Triumph Haste and Cut Down, while Free Boots and Approach Velocity are for secondaries. If you're trying to escape low elo as a mid lane main, then you really need to have Malzahar in your champion pool. That is, if you want to climb out the fastest, as Malz is the perfect low elo mid laner for a few different reasons. So the first is that Malz spikes very hard with levels and items, but his first couple of levels are extremely weak, which makes him way better suited for low elo, where games are never really lost in the first few minutes. Throws happen all the time in low elo, whereas in the higher ranks, what happens in the early game can more heavily dictate the outcome of the game, which means that Malz's weaker first few levels can get punished a bit harder in high elo. That being said, if you can farm up and work your way to your Lost Chapter purchase, after that you can begin to perma push out waves, and when you've got 6, playing with your jungler and looking for picks with R is the name of the game. It's all about playing around that R cooldown with Malz, as you want to be more proactive when it's up, and then try to chill out more and farm up when it's down, unless a very obvious play presents itself. Malz has the potential to solo kill when he has his R, but oftentimes the more optimal way to play him is to just shove out waves and then look for catches on enemies that are not suspecting you. Nothing has changed in regards to the best low elo ADC for this season, as it's still Miss Fortune, who remains unchallenged for that #1 spot. At the end of the day, it's the fact that Miss Fortune has a much less mechanically intensive kit than the majority of ADCs, which allows her to thrive in low elo. A lot of the time, it's just going to come down to positioning decently and being in the right spot to unleash an R in a team fight. Making sure that you're set up behind your team so that you don't get caught out before a fight starts, and then when you notice your team engages, looking to follow up. Positioning well is actually easier on MF than most ADCs anyways, enemies due to all the movement speed that she gets from her W, and by running Boots of Swiftness. The meta builds for Miss Fortune right now make her even easier to play because there's no attack speed at all in the setups. It's just raw damage, as the Ghostblade lethality build is going to work best into majority squishy comps, while the crit setup with Bloodthirst or Rush is better suited when playing into more bruisers or tanks. To climb out of low elo from support, picking a champion who doesn't rely as much on their ADC to succeed is a good strategy, and it makes Zyra a really strong low elo champ. The thing about Zyra is that when she hits level 6, she doesn't even need her ADC to do anything in order for her to find kills. A full combo with Zyra at level 6 can completely nuke the enemy ADC's health bar, and this allows you to take matters into your own hands much easier than the majority of supports. Something you'll want to get in the habit of when playing Zyra is trying to acquire brush control. When you use Zyra's E from brush, it's going to be much more difficult for enemies to react and dodge it, so you'll be able to find catch plays more consistently. In the mid game, playing around vision and looking for picks is how you're going to carry the hardest with Zyra. You want to be trying to control vision around the next objective that is spawning about 1 minute before it's up, so that you can catch out enemies as they try to walk in. You don't even have to find a kill either. Just chunking the enemy out before a key objective is coming up will heavily increase your chances of winning that team fight. The ultimate power play though is when the entire enemy team tries to walk through a choke, and you're then able to line up a multi-man R, which just solo wins the game for your team. Zyra's ability to fight well around choke points is something that makes her incredibly strong in the mid to late game, and especially good around those mid-game Otacon fights. So moving on to our selections for the mid-elo bracket. First up for top lane is going to be Kayle. Kayle is quite strong for low elo right now too, but she is a champ who does require slightly more mechanical skill than the likes of Urgot, so we like her better slotted into the mid-elo bracket, where players will be able to maximize her potential a bit better. With that being said, Kayle is actually pretty easy to execute right now due to her meta build not involving all that much attack speed. Immaculate auto weaving is not as important with this build because you do a lot more upfront damage with the Nashor's Rush into Rabadon 2nd and Lichbane 3rd. Now, one thing to note that many low elo Kayle players are doing wrong is they are maxing their E out first instead of Q. Q max is just far superior in every elo bracket, as it wins about 3% more than E, which is very significant. When you get up to master tier, about 65% of Kayle players are maxing their Q out first, but in low elo it's only 30%, so definitely look to run the Q max. Our challenger top laner Sam actually has a new Kayle commentary out on our website where he's playing this Q max on Kayle in Plat elo. A jungler who fits perfectly into the mid elo bracket and a phenomenal carry right now is Nunu. We like Nunu for the mid elo bracket more so than low elo because he's a champ who can be extremely proactive early on. When you're in silver or below, you just gotta be as consistent as possible, and Yorick being a champ who can full clear and just scale up works great in that sense. With Nunu though, you have a lot more early game options, which is only a good thing if you actually have the game knowledge to know what to do with it. The higher up the rank you go, the more you can actually rely on your teammates to capitalize on the leads that you get for them by ganking early on, which makes Nunu more valuable outside of low elo. The meta build for Nunu is just so great for solo queue at the moment because the Liandry's Rush adds a nice layer of consistent DPS power to the champ, while Deadman's and Abyssal Mask follow up to provide that much needed durability for the mid to late game. Nunu on Liandry's can literally one rotation any squishy in the game with his full combo, so this allows him to capitalize on his own catch plays so much better than if he built full tank. For mid lane in the mid elo bracket, we have more of an unconventional pick being Cho'Gath. So here's out on this one because it's a very unique setup and way of playing Cho'Gath. Over the past month or so, a new build has emerged on Cho that has made him incredibly powerful. The rush item consists of Shurelya's. You go Deadman's Plate 2nd and then Riftmaker 3rd. So the whole idea behind the setup is that it turns Cho'Gath into an extremely mobile champ with incredibly strong catch power and the ability to just walk right up to an enemy squishy and burst them out in one rotation. You go for the Q max so that you can just perma shove out waves, and since Shurelya's is such a cheap item, you will have that completed very early on in the game, which will help you rotate and roam after pushing out waves. And then to top it all off, you run Hail of Blades for the Keystone rune so that you can get your 3 procs of E damage off in an instant and quickly burst out your target. It's also key that you're running Axiom Arcanist in runes, as it amplifies your R damage by 12%, which is pretty nuts. One of the best ADCs in the game right now who you need to be playing if you're in Gold, Plat, or Emerald is Jinx. It's pretty simple as to why we like Jinx better as the mid-elo pick while MF slots in for low elo, as Jinx is an ADC who requires more mechanical skill to play successfully. This season has been amazing for Jinx because her 2 core items being Intel Wild Arrows and Infinity Edge have both been buffed, and it's increased her relative power quite a lot since most other ADCs don't run this same core build. The spike that you get when completing these 2 items is incredible, as the amount of raw damage that both items provide feels great. The upfront damage is amazing, and with all the AD, you get more burst coming out of your R to capitalize on your team's catch plays. If you're someone who's still building Hurricane 2nd on Jinx, then we definitely advise swapping to Infinity Edge, as you just have way more carry power in the mid game this way. Hurricane is still good as a 3rd pickup, but if you buy it 2nd, then you're really stunting your damage output. A support who works incredibly incredibly well for the mid-elo bracket is Karma. The thing about Karma is that she has a nice mix of utility and damage output. With the poke from Q, you're able to take matters into your own hands in lane and dominate without your ADC having to contribute much. But then later on in the game, you have the option to buff up your carries with her E shielding and movement speed, so if you do have competent teammates, you're able to play off that as well. You just never know what you're going to get in terms of teammates in that mid-elo bracket. So Karma is just a very consistent support to play, in that she can either look to do things herself or play off her team depending on how the game is going. If you need to be the carry yourself, then you can take a more offensive build of Malignance into Imperial Mandate with Realm Spike as the item upgrade. Vice versa, if your ADC is quite fed early on and it's looking like buffing them up will be the most optimal way of winning, grabbing Moonstone with Redemption and Dreammaker as the item upgrade will be the play. In Diamond and above, branching off into the more skill-expressive champions and really taking them to their limits is a great way to climb higher, and Riven is an amazing pick for top lane. Riven is one of the best champions in the game at punishing mistakes due to her high mobility and burst power. In lower ranks with less game knowledge, it's harder for players to really excel with Riven because they'll miss capitalizing on openings that can really snowball the game for them. In high elo though, your game knowledge will be quite good, and you should have a solid understanding around trading so you can maximize Riven's potential a lot better. Riven is one of the most snowbally top lane champs in the game due to all her mobility, so understanding matchups and the key fundamentals of League will allow you to thrive on the pick. The data really backs up Riven being a much better suited pick for high elo than for low elo, as the champ wins around 49% of the time in silver, while she's sitting at 52% in diamond and above. Just buffed and back to being one of the most oppressive junglers for high elo is Elise. Elise has always been a much more optimal champ for the elite tiers of play because of all the different options she has with her kit. The main one being that Elise can tower dive incredibly well due to the fact that she can drop tower aggro with her E, and executing on these tower dives consistently is something that low elo players have a more difficult time doing. Not so much because you yourself can't execute the dive, but because in the lower ranks you really can't rely on your teammates to execute the dive properly with you. In higher elo though, players will be much more accustomed to how Elise works and will be on the same page as you more often, so capitalizing on early dive plays is way more consistent. Elise does also rely on mechanics a bit more than the average jungler, as being able to hit your E stun is a big factor in whether you succeed with the champ or not. For Elise, we do see the same kind of win rate progression based on rank that we do with Riven, with the champ only winning about 48% in silver, but all the way up at 52% in diamond and above. For mid lane in the higher elos, playing a champ who has strong shove and roam power opens up a lot more windows of opportunity for yourself, as obtaining early game leads can snowball much harder than in low elo. For this reason, Talia is a really strong mid lane pick, and has been for this entire season, holding the highest win rate for any mid in the ranks diamond or above. Especially when you can get post 6 with Talia, you can clear out waves very quick, and then be on the lookout for rotational plays, always being able to beat the enemy mid to fights that break out on either side of the map. As a mid laner in the higher elos, having that priority in lane and the ability to move first is extremely important, and Talia is a champ who can get the job done in that regard. Just hitting that one good roam where you pick up a double kill for your bot lane can completely shift the momentum of the entire game, as you can rely way more on your teammates to snowball off the lead you give them by helping them out. Since games in the higher elos are more snowball-y, playing an ADC who can spike harder early on and exert more pressure in lane is more valuable, and for that reason, Corki is one of the best right now. Corki is one of the strongest one-item spikes for any ADC with his Trinity Force, as the all-in burst power on completion is incredible. This allows for Corki to follow up extremely well in his support's engage plays and instantly take a target out before they're able to fight back. You can also just take matters into your own hands with Corki when you have Trinity Force, especially if the enemy ADC is still sitting on components to their first item. With Corki's W, you can punish enemies for being too over-aggressive and do a great job at capitalizing on your item leads. When you have your Mana Mune transformed into Mirror Mana is another really big spike for Corki, so the champ is a lot about fighting around those breakpoints. And to round out the video, our high elo pick for support is going to be Thresh. Thresh was just recently buffed, and with a bunch of supports around him getting nerfed, it's his time to shine as that priority high elo hook support. Despite Nautilus being slightly more popular than Thresh in Diamond and above, it's not even close in terms of win rate between the two, as Naut is only at 48%, while Thresh sits 4% higher at 52%. With Thresh, you just have so many different ways to express your skill, and in the hands of an experienced player, his value goes up immensely. It really comes down to understanding what's best in different situations with Thresh that makes him so versatile. You can either be playing up aggressive, looking for hook plays, or you can sit back further and provide your carry with more safety by throwing them a lantern. Knowing when to shift your playstyle on Thresh is very key to unlocking the full potential of the champ, and with less game knowledge, it's just very hard to get the most out of him, which makes Thresh way better suited as a high elo pick. Alright guys, one last thing, our rank up guarantee is insane. It's like signing up for the gym and getting a refund if you don't get ripped. That's how confident we are in SkillCapped. We obsess over making the best guides with top players, rigorous testing, and top tier video editing to make your climb easy. If you're ready to level up, visit SkillCapped.com and see the difference. So there you have it everyone, those are 5 champs for every elo bracket that are the most powerful for the current meta. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.